Gemini versus ChatGPT. Can Google's AI assistant catch up to OpenAI's monstrosity? They're certainly doing their best. And if you're wondering which is better, Google Gemini or ChatGPT, here's my analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of each app, whether you're trying to decide between the two, or you just want to know what Gemini is best at and what ChatGPT is best at. That's exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this video. My name's Alex. I'm a digital marketer with Lover Fighter Writer, and I've been using generative AI software basically since it became commercially available. And honestly, I didn't like the idea of AI writers. As a writer myself, I write fiction, and I'm also a copywriter and a content writer. So initially, I didn't really like the idea of AI writing, but even the very early tools, which were quite limited, were effective enough that I knew it was going to become a really big thing. And I know enough about programming to understand that it could potentially improve very rapidly. So I got in on it pretty quickly, and I became very good at it. And people used to pay me to create custom templates, which are what we used to get the AI to write what we wanted before we could just do simple inline prompts like we use now with ChatGPT and Gemini. And now I've put all of that knowledge and experience into creating this list of AI marketing prompts. I used to call these my ChatGPT marketing prompts, but I'm using them as much with Grok and with Gemini and sometimes with other chatbots as I do with ChatGPT now. So I've changed the title to AI marketing prompts, but it's still the same list. It's this beautiful Google Sheets spreadsheet. And if you follow the first link in the description, you'll be able to visit my landing page. It looks like this, and you click this button and fill out the form that pops up. And then you'll be added to my email list, and I will email you access to my AI marketing prompts list. There's about 27 on it right now. A bunch of them have multiple parts. And I just added this new one, which we're going to be working with a little bit today. It's digital property analysis, and it's pretty simple, but it's very effective, especially with Gemini. And it just says, visit my property type found at URL, analyze the existing content, and give me an action plan for goal. So for example, if you want it to analyze your website, you would say, visit my website found at the URL of your website, analyze the existing content, and give me an action plan for attracting more local search traffic. And I've got tons of tutorials on how to use these. You can see a lot of these prompts have YouTube videos linked right here so that you can get a little bit of extra help if you need it. And you can get this for free just by signing up for my email list. Again, the link is in the description. Now, let's get on to comparing Google Gemini against ChatGPT. First, let's take a quick look at some numbers so we can see where the two apps are at. ChatGPT currently has 500 million plus downloads on the Android App Store with 19.3 million reviews and an average score of 4.8. Google Gemini has 100 million plus downloads on the Play Store with an average review of 4.4 stars and 7.5 million reviews. On the Apple Store, I couldn't find the actual download numbers, but ChatGPT has just under 400,000 reviews with an average score of 4.9, and Gemini has just under 30,000 reviews with an average score of 4.8. However, there are a few things that we should take into consideration. Of course, Google owns the Play Store, and one of their biggest competitors is Apple, who owns the Apple Store. But I'm not going to try and guess how that might influence their popularity on those platforms. ChatGPT has been around a lot longer. It was really the first easy-to-use, free AI writing assistant, and it became available to the public with a very functional model much earlier than anything that Google put out or really any of its other competitors. So that explains why it's so insanely popular. But I do think that Gemini is making pretty good progress. And another interesting thing that I noticed here on the Apple Store is that although ChatGPT is number 1 and Gemini is number 4, Google owns a lot of real estate in the top 12 Apple apps. You can see Gemini is number 4, followed immediately by Gmail and Google Drive. Then there's a couple of Microsoft apps, then Google Sheets. And then at 11 and 12, we have Google Docs and Google Calendar. And Google has already started making certain components of Gemini available in these other apps, which is going to be a really effective way of pushing their massive user base of people who use Gmail or Google Drive or any of these other things towards Gemini. So ChatGPT is still way out in the lead in terms of overall users, and it certainly seems to have an edge in terms of better ratings as well. But I have a feeling that Gemini is kind of just getting started. And having just started using Gemini myself, I'm really excited about a few things that it does especially well. But when it comes to a lot of content writing and copywriting, I'm probably going to stick with ChatGPT or some of the other dedicated tools that I have. The first time that I pulled up Gemini like this, I decided to start by asking what features I can use in this app, and it explained the multimodality, which means that it can both create and respond to multiple different types of content. So it can output text, images, audio, and even video. And you can prompt it by typing, talking, or by uploading images and photos. Then, of course, it has answering questions and information retrieval. And one of the things that I found Gemini is very good at, unsurprisingly, because it's built by Google, is doing research on the live internet. Now, you can do that with ChatGPT, and you can do it with Grok and some other AI assistants as well. But based on what I've seen so far, I think Gemini is probably the best at that. And another thing that I love about it is that you can use it to do the research. Then you can tell it to rewrite or format or make notes on the research however you want. Then you can just export that directly into a Google Doc. And I've already started using it as part of my writing process, and I really, really enjoy it. And of course, we have content generation and creativity, integration with Google Apps and Services. Being able to export to Google Docs is part of that, but as I mentioned, it also integrates with a number of other Google apps in a few different ways. Apparently, you can replace the normal Google Voice Assistant with Gemini as well. I haven't tried that yet, but I do have an Android device, so I might try that at some point. It has a customization feature similar to what ChatGPT calls custom GPT. Gemini calls them gems, and that's basically where you can just put some instructions in ahead of time so that every time you use that specific chatbot, it's going to have a certain setting, a certain prompt that it's going to be using. And I already created one as an SEO writer. It works quite well. And one of the craziest things, and I'm not sure if ChatGPT can do this or if any of the others can, but it says you can upload a file with up to 1,500 pages to get it to analyze the data. And that is pretty wild. So I'm going to have to try that at some point. I'm just not sure what I'm going to use. And I figured I should ask ChatGPT the same question. And so it explained the core features on the free plan first, which I think we're all familiar with. And it makes a note that you don't have the ability to explore the live internet. However, the free plan also includes limited access to the more advanced model. I'm not sure exactly how much it is, but you can use the 4.0 model to a certain extent on the free plan. And then in order to get to some of the more advanced features that Gemini was talking about, you would have to upgrade to the full 4.0 plan. And then it has some special tools related to coding and image generating and everything like that. And one feature that I really like that these AI assistants are starting to include is the deep research. So you can see ChatGPT has deep research, Gemini has deep research, Grok also has deep research. And basically it just means that it's going to spend more time researching and thinking than it normally would. It's going to go over way more sources, and you can get some really interesting data that way. And the next thing that I tried with Gemini is I used the digital property analysis prompt that I mentioned that I just added to my AI marketing prompts list. Remember, you can use the link in the description to get this spreadsheet for free. And if you go to File, Add Shortcut to Drive, it'll add a shortcut to it in your drive. You can also go to Make a Copy if you want to copy it to your drive so you can edit it or create your own version. And it gave me some really great advice for my YouTube channel. Not really anything that I didn't already know, but it was just kind of helpful to have someone else, or in this case, something else, do some of the thinking for me and kind of give me ideas to bounce around. Then I started using it for content creation ideas and writing, which is the same kind of thing that I do with ChatGPT. I really liked the way it did this prompt. So this is kind of a combination of two prompts from the sheet. One is click-worthy headlines, and the other is headline optimization. And this is basically where I get the chatbot to write a list of headlines and score them out of 100 based on how likely they are to get clicked. And then I ask it to try to improve the scores. And then I try to write a headline that beats their scores. And then I tell it to try to beat my score. And it works really well. And I really like the way that Gemini did this. This was, I think, the initial list that it came up with. And then I said, add this headline to the table. And I wrote one. and it added it, and my headline was actually the highest score. It's the only 96. There's 195 and 94. So according to Gemini, I'm a better copywriter than it is. And then I noticed that the first headline had some issues with phrasing, so I told it to fix that and told it to try to improve all of the other headlines in order to try to beat my score. And it didn't quite manage that, but it did kind of tie it with a few of them. And then I went through and asked it a few more questions and started working on some other projects. And I decided to ask a third AI research tool what it thought about Gemini versus ChatGPT. So this is Brave Search, which has a AI response mechanism, much like Google and Bing currently do. And I agree with its conclusion, which is to choose ChatGPT if you need superior creative writing, coding assistance, and detailed, accurate responses, and choose Gemini if you require better integration with Google services, advanced image analysis, and real-time information retrieval. Now, actually, I would disagree with the idea that ChatGPT is better at being detailed and accurate. I would say they're about equivalent in that. However, I do think ChatGPT is the better writer and Gemini is the better researcher. So I'm going to have to test this a little bit, but I think I might be doing my research and outlining in Gemini and then moving to ChatGPT to actually write the content. And that'll do it for this video. Let me know in the comments which of these two apps you prefer or what you use them each for. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, share my content with anyone you know who you think would find it helpful. And remember, you can get my list of AI marketing prompts, which is extremely effective, by following the first link in the description and signing up for my email list. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.